All right, Devils fans, welcome back. Jersey Devils Brocast. I am Jay Bake doing a little Shorty here on YouTube. As always, you can catch us on Radio Garden State Tuesday nights from 9 to 10. Catch us on the Radio Garden State website, radiogardenstate.com, Radio Garden State in the Audacy and Tunein app. So, man, since our last show last week, seems like there's been an entire season's worth of news here for the Devils. It has been something else. I've been a fan for about 30 years now. I've seen all kinds of ups and downs, playoff triumphs and heartbreak, and coming up short in a regular season, not meeting expectations, rebuilds, expecting nothing, and being surprised. But man, this season has been something else, and it seems like the Devils have had multiple seasons worth of news or adversity in a very short period of time, and we're just past the halfway mark. Now, I'm used to this as a Mets fan. This is almost what's expected. The Devils, not so much, but let's dive into it here. So, since the last show on Tuesday, that was in the midst of the Devils losing 9-0 to the Islanders. And the question I'd pose to all the fans, and feel free to comment on this, is what was worse in last week? Losing 9-0 to the Islanders or the response the next game against Pittsburgh? You lose 9-0. I don't really care about advanced stats at that point. I don't care about Corsi percentage. I don't care about shots on net, how the Devils actually dominated the shots on net aspect. The final score is embarrassing. And Markstrom had a horrific night. We all know that, but the team did too. Out of those 9 goals, probably half of them were not totally his fault, for sure. Just poor defensive breakdowns and a team that did not look like they were ready to seriously compete. And all those shots on net, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've gone through all the heat charts of where their high danger chances were, but it certainly seemed like it's been more of the same with shots from the perimeter with no real rebounds, no real traffic in front of the net, and doing those things in the hard areas to win hockey games that you have to do to win hockey games in this league. And it's frustrating right now. It's very frustrating being a Devils fan. I was more frustrated personally within the next game that you're embarrassed by a division rival with the Islanders to face another division rival in Pittsburgh and to be completely flat. Just seemed like there wasn't a lot of energy. There wasn't a lot of mojo. There wasn't that type of pride and determination that you'd expect for a team with Stanley Cup aspirations. And now here we are. The Devils are in the news quite a bit. I love the quote from Mike Rupp this week talking about how, yes, sometimes you need to have a-holes on your team that push other guys. If everything's all kumbaya in your locker room, that's not good. I know Fitzgerald said, not this last offseason before, that I don't want, we're trying to be a family show here, so I won't get into all the curse words, but that he didn't want bad people on his team. He wanted good people with good personalities. But sometimes you need guys to push the needle with that. Devils had Claude Lemieux. Him and Stevens didn't exactly see eye to eye. Talked to Bobby Holik in a lot of interviews. He didn't exactly see eye to eye with a lot of his teammates either. A lot of his teammates didn't like him. Johnny Madden, I talked about it on a broadcast recently when the Devils played the Wild. He's an assistant there. Johnny Madden was sometimes a tough guy to get along with. He's a pretty intense guy. Maybe the Devils need a little bit more of that on this team right now and a little bit of that in the locker room, because to come out as flat as they did after being embarrassed on national TV and then to be talked about nationally for how bad they played and then to respond with another bad game, man, that's beyond a red flag. That's just like an SOS signal for help. Keefe with a very interesting press conference after that game. We've all seen the quotes about how his job security, how he feels that he knows what this team needs moving forward, about how he felt maybe this team, in so many words, got a little too confident after their hot start. and then came back down to reality when everybody else started to tighten up their structure and get their games together, and the Devils didn't really respond in the same manner. That's something Reese pointed out on our show recently. Maybe the Devils were just, they've been playing this bad all year. They just got away with it in October because everyone else was still beginning of the season, new players, a new structure, who has a new coach, who has a new penalty kill scheme, power play. Devils were able to take advantage of that. And now here we are. Now, even more news with Dougie Hamilton. Even more news with, did Quinn Hughes and that whole situation cause a lot of issues and ruffle some feathers in a Devils locker room of who's going to go, who's going to stay, what's uncomfortable now? And I understand all those things. And I understand these are people like with Dougie Hamilton. I mean, guy's got a family. He has no trade, no movement clause for a reason. It wasn't to get traded halfway through his contract. It was to make his home here in New Jersey where he wanted to be. And you got to respect that. I know he's making $9 million a year. And I see fans saying, he's making $9 million. Go wherever you're told. Anybody else is in the same situation, they'd be feeling the same way. They wouldn't be going, I'll put the team first and go somewhere where I don't want to go when then I'm no longer even on this team. No, you're going to go, your number one team is your family, and this isn't good for them, and I'm going to stay. So I understand it. It sucks for the Devils. I think it sucks for Hamilton. This whole situation is seemingly turning into a mess as now his agent has made some comments about him being a healthy scratch coming up against Winnipeg, it seems, and how that was strategic by the Devils. Again, I won't go into every verbatim quote here or quote people verbatim, but, strategic move by the Devils to force Dougie's hand to just accept a trade and go. To Fitzgerald firing back, and we haven't heard from him in a while now. That's a whole other thing about how no, it's because we're very strong on the right side, and Kovacevic is coming back. He was our best defenseman last year, and he needs to get in a lineup. Nemec was one of our best offensive defensemen before he got hurt. He needs time in the lineup, and Brett Pesce is Brett Pesce. He's staying in the lineup, and it is what it is. What the truth is, we will find out someday. I'd like to think it has to do with play and putting the best roster on the lineup, but also we understand it's a business. Say there's a likelihood that they're also trying to kind of strong arm him here, and you're going to sit. You might want to accept a trade. But either way, it's a shitty situation. And, I just don't know. I don't know. It's a mess. And then the Luke Hughes or the Quinn Hughes stuff. I don't know. Does that really ruffle feathers that they're trying to get the brother of two other guys, and means that other guys are now available? And I don't know. Obviously, I don't think anyone really knows what the guys in that locker room. Maybe it's overstated. Maybe it's just a rumor. But it's a little. It seems like when there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot going on in this locker room right now, and it's very disappointing as well because this isn't necessarily a young team with rookie players, and they're still learning the league, and they don't have any maturity. You know, enough of this building towards something and letting these guys develop. I think at a certain point, when Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt have 9 years of experience, when Jack Hughes is in year 7, Mercer's in year 5, Timo is in year 10. Like, at what point is this? This is not a young team anymore. These are guys that are in the prime of their career, and they need to be treated that way. It's unacceptable. You've been around long enough. I mean, let's think. Let's think for a second. Great Devils players that the Devils drafted that we saw as little babies coming into the league. I'll go all the way back in the day to Kirk Muller and John McClain. Let's see where they were at in years 8 and 9 in their career. Scotty Niedermayer. Let's see where he was at years 8 and 9 of his career. Marty Brodeur. Even guys like Zach Parisi, right? Started 05. By the time in 2008, he was becoming an elite player. By 2009, he was arguably one of the best players on Team USA, then the Olympics the next year, right? In 2010, he had a 90-plus point season in 2009. Patrick Elias, Peter Sikora coming up in the late 90s. By the time they got to years 8 and 9, I don't even know if Sikora was still even here. He was already prime of his career and traded. Elias was viewed as one of the best two-way forwards in the game. Travis Zajac at this point in his career is viewed as one of the best defensive forwards in the game. We didn't view these guys as rookie, young guys still learning the game. They were viewed as veteran players that were supposed to meet certain expectations. And those expectations for almost all those guys at the time was, are you going to go win a Stanley Cup? We're still at with this team. Can you just like make the playoffs and win a few games? It's unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. Now even look beyond the Devils. Teams that built through the draft and tanked in a way and built with high picks. The Blackhawks, Kane and Tays, years 7 and 8, they already won a cup at that point. If they might have even had a few. Crosby and Malkin in the mid 2000s. They ended up at that point, they already had a cup, 2 cup finals appearances, and they were actually, I want to say what, that'd be the 13-14 season, somewhere around then. They were viewed as underachieving, but they already won a Stanley Cup. Doughty and Kopitar out in L.A., they were winning cups already. Bergeron in Boston was already winning a Stanley Cup. Nathan McKinnon, years 7 and 8 of his career, Colorado was emerging as a beast in the West. I just, at what point do we stop treating these grown men as boys? And that you're grown men, you got to start acting this way. Like just looking at this team, to kind of go to my next point with the 2011 team is the season that kind of reminds me of this team. But like, at what point is enough with a pity party here of expecting bad things to happen or whatever else that we're kind of hearing coming out of the locker room? But like, give me a break. You guys have been around long enough. Nico and Brad are not young players learning the league. They've been around 9 years. Come on. Brad Hughes has been around 7. Timo 10 years. Siegenthaler's been around a while now. These are not young guys still learning the league. This isn't 2023. This is a few years later. And man, it's very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. And I've had enough of the building towards something talk that we kind of hear. We heard that a lot last year, coming into this year too. We are beyond building towards something. You're building something right now. You need to compete right now. Nico Heischer's 27 years old. When Zach Parise was 27 years old, he was one of the best players in the game. When Brodeur was 27 years old, he was regarded as one of the best goalies in the game, if not already one of the best ever. Elias was regarded as one of the best players in the game. Niedermeyer, one of the best defensemen in the game. You're in your prime of your beginning, the prime of your career. Enough of the building towards something. We're learning. We're this. Enough. That's a bunch of nonsense at this point. And that would not have been acceptable in the Lou Lamoriello era of the Devils during the glory days or what have you. That would have never been acceptable. Even back in the beginning, before the glory days, before they were the cup teams with the Mullers and that, at this point, they were prime-time players. And we're still waiting for these guys to be legitimately prime-time, expect the playoffs. They know how to win. It's a matter of how far can we get. We still haven't gotten there yet, and it's very frustrating. But to my other point before, this reminds me a lot of that 2011 team. And this is a little bit more about the coach and really making more of a cultural shift of where this team is going. For those of you that remember that 2011 year, high expectations, much like this year. They re-signed Kovalchuk. They brought back Jason Arnott. I believe their top 6 was the ZZ Pops line with Zajac, Parise, and Langenbrunner. Then Elias, Arnott, Kovalchuk. I know Arnott was a little long in the tooth at that point, a little later in his career. But still, then you had guys like Ralston, and I mean, it was a very good team on paper, a team that was fairly competitive. And then, they had a horrific start to the season. Johnny Mack finally got his chance to be a head coach. By mid-December, this team and that team in mid-December is playing very similar to the way this team is playing right now. Just no confidence, not really playing together. Seems like that nobody's really on the same page. And there isn't just that bite and fight to their game. And the Devils ended up moving on from Johnny Mack, bringing in Jacques Lemaire. And in his first press conference, Lemaire said something along the lines of he had seen teams in his career that were holding the stick a little too tight, right? Guys that were just not relaxed enough, trying way too hard, just not really playing within themselves. But he had never seen a team like that seemingly lost the ability to play the game. And he had said there was just no confidence, no confidence. I'm getting a vibe with this team right now watching them. It's like this anticipation of like I said before, what something bad is going to happen. And I don't know. It's tough to get over that, it seems, without really changing things significantly. And it's a lot easier to change the coach than change the core of your team. I like Sheldon Keefe. I think he's a great coach. He's had a great career. I think he's been proven as a that he did very. It's been proven now that he did very well in Toronto. Kind of run out of town by Toronto fans, I think unfairly. A team that now with Craig Berube, who everybody thought was the perfect fit for Toronto, uh, and Toronto's worse off. I know they lost Marner, but Toronto didn't get any further in the playoffs with Craig Berube, and looks like right now they're going to miss the playoffs. Sheldon Keefe had some great regular seasons in Toronto, a great minor league career with the Marlies. I think Sheldon Keefe's a hell of a coach, and Sheldon Keefe wouldn't surprise me if he ends up winning a Stanley Cup in his career someday. It's not really about Sheldon Keefe to me. It's not this guy's not the right coach. I just think you need to do something to almost start day one of a new season and move on from this. Because whatever they're trying to do to move forward clearly isn't working. And they've been playing poor hockey now for more than a calendar year. Last year in early January, when the team was still relatively healthy, they weren't playing well. We've all seen the numbers and the graphics of their goal scoring. They're dead last in the league. I just at what point does a change need to happen? And I think it's very understandable for most people that watch the game or have seen Sheldon Keefe. Like I don't think it's necessarily Keefe is the problem, but again, I think you need to do something to wake everybody up and to kind of shock the system and start over. You lose confidence to that degree, you need to do something serious to make a change. I think it was Jack Nicklaus had once said it's confidence is very easy to lose and very hard to get back. And it's that's true across all sports, and hockey players are no different. You lose some confidence, that can snowball. Sometimes a new voice. I think maybe a veteran coach, guy that's won, guy with a lot of respect to come in and set a new tone for this team. I think Lemaire had that kind of vibe coming back in 2011. He had history with that team. He had coached them the year before. But like this is a legendary guy coming into the room. He's not a new coach. This isn't his first rodeo. He's not even a guy that was part of that team in that season. He's coming back in with a bit of a fresh set of eyes to do a bit of a factory reset on the season. And I think that's what the Devils kind of need right now. I'm probably the last one to jump on this fire Keefe train. I think coaches get way too much blame and not enough credit. I think Sheldon Keefe seems like a great guy, and I think he's a great coach. But I think this factory reset needs to happen sooner rather than later. And a guy like Pete DeBoer is available. Peter DeBoer came in the league initially supposed to be good at developing young players, ended up being a coach that did very well with veteran teams and pushing them forward, getting that extra gear out of them. Did that with the Devils in 2012, did that with the Sharks, did that with Vegas and Dallas. He's made the conference finals like 8 times, 7 times, the Stanley Cup finals twice. He's a very good head coach. In his last 2 years with the Devils, he wasn't exactly provided the best roster. I wouldn't exactly say that was all his fault. But in saying that, you make a change now. I think much like the 2011 season, they turned it around. They went on a run. They had a great second half. We remember that. They won something like 20 out of 24 games. That great comeback game. I think was it a comeback game against the Maple Leafs? And they just got their mojo back. They got their confidence back. And I think the biggest part of that was it rolled into the next season where then they went to the finals. This season for the Devils right now isn't over. They're not dead last in the league. They are not just miles away from a playoff spot. They win 4 out of 5. They might even be fifth or sixth in the conference right now. But maybe it's time to do that reset now. And at worst case, let's do it now and let's start building on something and at least roll some good vibes into the offseason, into next season at the very least. But really, I'm not giving up on this year. We got to go win now. But we got to do something to get that going. And I think, unfortunately, that leads to a coaching change. So, yeah, we got a lot going on here in Devil's Land right now. And we will see. Big game against Winnipeg. I don't think anyone ever thought we'd be in a position where playing the worst team in the league this year. I don't think anyone thought Winnipeg would be the worst team in the league. But playing Winnipeg on a Sunday in January would be a huge game. But here we go again. Devils have to win this game. And they have to come out with a strong effort and a lot of energy and play like the season is on the line because we are yet to really see them play with that kind of desperation. So those are my thoughts for now on this Shorty on YouTube. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. As always, join in the comments. Let me know what you think. Agree, disagree, etc. We're going to be posting this up and waiting for all your replies. So as always, you can catch us on Radio Garden State Tuesday nights 9 to 10. And that is that. And I'm Jay Big from the Jersey Devils Brocast. As always, let's go Devils. The season isn't over. Let's stick with it, folks. Let's stick with this team. We're real fans. We're not just bandwagon fans. We're going to stick with this team through the end. Let's go and let's start getting on a roll. All right, let's go Devils.